Will council please come to order? And will the clerk please call the roll?
Henderson.
Present.
Oliver's absent. Ford.
Here.
Hager-Smith.
Here.
Mattingly. Here. Sutphin.
Here.
Watson.
Present.
I am going to begin today with a proclamation, and that is to honor the Emergency Medical Services Week. And it begins this way. Whereas emergency medical services provide a vital public service, whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, emergency medical directors, paramedics, dispatchers, firefighters, law enforcement officers, educators, administrators, nurses, physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. Whereas the members of emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. Whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value, selflessness, and accomplishments of all emergency medical services providers. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Leslie Hager-Smith, Mayor of the town of Blacksburg, do hereby proclaim the week of May 18 to 24, 2025 as Emergency Medical Services Week, and encourage the community to observe this week by showing their support for their local EMS providers and the essential services they provide. And I'd like to ask the Vice Mayor now to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will begin this evening with a statement of disqualification before we begin the consent agenda.
Sure. So the Virginia State and Local Government Conflict of Interests Act requires that I make disclosure to be recorded in town records. In any case in which I am forbidden to participate, therefore I make the following disclosure. The transactions involved are A, the approval of Ordinance 2069 and Ordinance amending Town Code regarding water and sewer availability fee waivers. B, the 2025-2026 HUD Annual Action Plan, and C, Sections 4A2, 6, and 7 of Ordinance 2067 and Ordinance approving the 2025-26 operating budget. My personal interest affected by these transactions is as follows. My personal interest or employment in community housing partners, which would benefit if Ordinance 2067 is approved. The New River Home Trust, which is controlled by CHP, is mentioned as an entity that would be eligible for fee waivers. CHP would also benefit from the 2025-26 HUD and CDBG Annual Action Plan, and CHP would benefit from the appropriations contained in Sections 4A to 6 and 7 of Ordinance 2067. CHP headquarters is located at 448 Depot Street, Northeast, Christiansburg, Virginia. I affirmatively state that I will not vote or in any manner act on behalf of the Town Council regarding Ordinance 2067, 2076, and the HUD and CDBG Annual Action Plan. So that was a combined statement for a couple things, or three things.
Thank you for that. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. And that includes approval of Town Council minutes for April 15 and April 22nd. And the second item is the Home and CDBG Program Action Plan that we approve each year. The Ordinance 2086, an ordinance permitting an encroachment in town right-of-way on 411 Draper Road. We're going to introduce that tonight, and we will schedule for a public hearing on June 10. What is council's pleasure on the consent agenda?
I request that we remove item B from the consent agenda and vote on it separately. And if that's okay to proceed, I move that we approve items A and C from the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ford.
Aye.
Hager-Smith.
Aye.
Mattingly.
Aye.
Sutphin.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
And now we will vote on item B, approval of a program action plan for home funds and CDBG funding.
I move approval of the Home and CDB Program Action Plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Hager-Smith,
Aye.
Mattingly,
Aye.
Sutphen,
Abstain.
Watson,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
We will move on now to our public hearings. We have two this evening. Ordinance 2069, an ordinance to amend Town Code, Sections 18-109, 24-306, and to add new Town Code Sections 18-109, 1, and 24-306.1 pertaining to waiving utility availability fees for affordable housing developments. And we will begin with the staff presentation.
And Matt Hanratty will have that presentation.
Okay, well, I apologize, there are no slides. That's okay, I have slides here. So as the mayor mentioned, this is to broaden the availability fee waivers for affordable housing. So there's going to be a theme here and kind of 4 different policy considerations that are wrapped into this about granting more flexibility for different affordable housing options. So currently, the current policy that is in our code is waiving projects for 80% of area median income for homeownerships or below, and 60% or below for renters. The proposed change is to bump that up to 120% of the area median income. If you recall, and we've talked about this before as a council, as a community, the New River Valley Regional Housing Study, when you look at our area affordability, there are still struggles in our community at 120% area median income and below. Typically between 80% and 120% are harder to serve because there's no federal subsidy, but with our Affordable Housing Development Fund, we have some potential local options that could manage that. There's also some programs that are coming online from the state that allow some of that flexibility for both the nonprofit and private sector. So we want to be able to have flexibility to enact that should we feel it's appropriate for a development. So that is the first proposed change in the ordinance. The second is extending the affordability terms. So currently we have home consortium and low-income housing tax credits that are allowed. The home consortium has a requirement of a 10-year affordability period, and the tax credit has a variable affordability period. We'd like to propose the change that's in the ordinance to a 15-year flat as a minimum, and it allows more flexibility for various programs. And we're seeing now 15 years is a typical minimum across all programs, and it kind of goes up from there based on the program and the deal, if you will, that you're getting, how many units over what term, what affordability level. So it just, again, creates more flexibility related to that. The third theme is broadening the eligible financing sources. I mentioned previously that it's just home and low-income housing tax credit programs that are in our current ordinance. So this would broaden that to a variety of federal, state, and local projects. So it would really open it up to all programs that support affordable housing, in addition to allowing projects on land owned by the New River Home Trust, which is our community land trust that Community Housing Partners manages. So just give us, again, that theme of flexibility to allow more programs as we're seeing more programs come online, especially at the state level, to help with affordable housing. It allows us to be nimble and allow that as a consideration. And the final one is providing discretion from town council. So currently in our policy, home is automatic in our policy, and then low-income housing tax credit is conditional. The new ordinance language would basically give town council discretion across all programs. It could be part of a fee waiver, it could be a whole fee waiver, and we develop an application process through the town manager's office to kind of filter that and work with council. Again, it gives us more flexibility, it gives discretion to council, staff can kind of vet, the program, what is the affordability terms that the town is getting in return for waiving utility fees. So it just gives more flexibility on a project-by-project basis, instead of trying to say, well, these programs we're going to waive, these programs we're not going to waive. So those are the 4 policy changes in the ordinance. Again, it just creates more flexibility as more affordable programs are coming online, and we'll have, local funds as well to manage it. So that concludes my formal remarks, and I'd be happy to answer any questions council has.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have public comment? Seeing none. What is council's pleasure on ordinance 2069?
I move approval of ordinance 2069.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any conversation about that? No? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mattingly,
Aye.
Watson,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Hagersmith.
Aye. We'll move on now to the fiscal 25-26 recommended budget package, and that begins with ordinance 2076, an ordinance adopting the budget for the town of Blacksburg, Virginia for the fiscal year beginning July 1 and ending June 30th, 2026, adopting the real estate tax rate and appropriating funds for the fiscal year. Oh, 2077 is part of the same package, isn't it?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Part B. Okay, and ordinance 2077, amending Blacksburg Town Code sections 18-400, 20-206, and 24-602 to increase fees for water and sewer services and solid waste and recycling fees. And so we have a combined staff report on these 2 ordinances.
Correct. And we'll do, as we typically do, is we'll hold the public hearing tonight, take any public comment, then you all will take action in 2 weeks. So this will be familiar. This is information you've already seen at the meeting where this was introduced about a month ago, and then we covered the budget in more detail in some of our work sessions. But the budget's it's pretty routine this year, supports all the expected services and programs that citizens come to expect in Blacksburg. It reflects council's strategic goals to try to continue to implement those in a lot of the projects that we already have underway, and is also paying attention to what's going on in the economy, which changes from day to day. Where we are right now. But if we look at the overall budget, the overall budget's just over 108 million. If you look at that with capital and debt, so those are a lot of those are one-time expenses. It's an increase of about 2.9%. If you deduct out the capital and debt, it's about a 5.6% increase. So that reflects the cost increases that the town is seeing. The budget chart looks the same as past years. About half the budget, 53 million, is the general fund. That's where most of the town services are provided. Our utility funds, that's water, sewer, solid waste, recycling, stormwater. Those are all, that's about roughly a quarter of the budget, and then roughly a quarter of the budget is the transit fund, which operates our Blacksburg transit system, and the bulk of that is funding that comes from state and federal grants. The utility funds typically come from user fees. The general fund, as I said, where most of the services come from, is about 53 million. The general fund budget is increasing about 4.4% when you take out the capital and debt of those one-time expenses from previous years. We are keeping the real estate tax rate at the same rate of 26 cents per $100 of assessed value. We are projecting kind of moderate revenue growth in all of our revenue categories, and a lot of that is due to just things cost more. So a lot of times, a lot of our tax rates are a rate applied to a purchase like a meal or a hotel room, and those are costing more. So we're seeing some of those rates, some of those revenues go up. Some of the notable expenditures that we've talked about, we're funding our affordable housing incentives, the water and sewer connection fees that Matt Hanratty just talked about and you all just approved. We have funding for a lot of regional items that we're participating in. So some funding for the passenger rail station, funding to start paying debt service on a loan for our 911 system radio upgrade, and that's a county-wide radio system that we're all sharing with the other localities in Virginia Tech. The regional commission is moving to new office space, so our contribution for that. We're continuing our police department behavioral health co-response program, which is the response to the Marcus Alert Law. We've been doing that for a year. It's been very successful. So we're continuing that funding. St. Luke and Odd Fellows Hall restoration, that's a group that we've worked on for about a year and a half to do some improvements to St. Luke and Odd Fellows Hall. So that's exciting to get that funded. And then looking forward, we have some athletic field upgrades. We're doing some short-term things now. Longer term, we have some funding. We want to look at some longer-term, more major improvements. Expanding our skate park, so we have some recreation upgrades there. We have funding for our zoning ordinance rewrite, which we're in the process of hiring consultants for that currently. So we should have a contract on that here within the next month or so to get that project kicked off. And then in transit, we're continuing our transition to electric buses. We have 18 buses that should be coming and operating by this fall, and then we'll be adding some en-route charging capacity that would go in the new transit center at Virginia Tech. So those are just some of the notable things. Personnel and benefits, our largest expense are personnel and benefits. We provide all of our services with people. So you have inflationary impacts there, and it's providing cost of living and step increases for our employees. If I'd have bet 3 years ago, I'd have lost that our health insurance rates haven't gone up for the third year in a row. So that's good news. We don't have a Virginia retirement system rate change this year, so that rate changes every 2 years. So we'll get that rate next year. So we don't have any increases there. And we're also able to add some new positions, a couple of positions in the finance department to give them some more capacity, several positions in the transit department, some maintenance positions, but also an accounting position, and then we're reclassifying a couple of positions. We're taking a budget analyst and converting it to a budget manager to maybe get someone with a skill set that could essentially take over the budget at some point. And then we're taking a couple of part-time positions and combining them into a full-time position at Parks and Recreation to do some of our park maintenance. Looking at utility rates, if you kind of go down to the bottom of this slide, we are seeing increases in water, sewer, and solid waste and recycling. No change in the stormwater rate, and all of our utility providers are seeing inflationary increases for cost of labor, cost of power, all those sorts of things. So it works out to about a 4.5% increase on the average utility bill for the average customer. This is the schedule we're following. We did have some work sessions. In those work sessions, council did make some changes, primarily to the agency funding requests. So you made some increases to literacy, NRV, the Agency on Aging, the Master Chorale. The Summer Arts Festival, we funded that at a higher level to be able to do concerts every week, every weekend this summer. The Wonder Universe, which is the Children's Museum, YMCA at Virginia Tech, which provides some electronics recycling services for the town. The Blacksburg Partnership, we increased theirs. The Columbus Institute for Latin American Studies and Music, that's a new one this year that we provided some funding for. Also a new one, the Imagination Library of Montgomery County, which provides books to children in the community. And then the council also discussed the Lyric Council Capital Campaign. They're doing a capital campaign to do some pretty significant improvements to the theater, and the council decided to fund that at the $70,000 level that the Lyric requested. So those are the primary changes that we've had since the budget was first recommended. And we'll hold the public hearing tonight, and then we'll consider adoption May 27th. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Nope. Looks like not. Okay. Okay. Then we will close this portion of the, well, let's see, it says here public comment. Do we have public comment? No? Okay. We will do our action on May 27th. Moving on to citizens' comments. Still no citizen comments. Okay. Unfinished business? New business? And council announcements.
I have two that I would like to remind people about. Coming up on Monday, May 19th, there will be I guess I'd call it maybe input update on the Virginia Tech Airport from 6 to 8 p.m. And again, that will be at the airport here in Blacksburg on the Virginia Tech campus. Another thing happening that very same day, so that's Monday, May 19th, is the Toms Creek Basin Study update at the Community Center. So that's 5:30 to 7 p.m., again on Monday, May 19th.
I would just like to remind people that the Summer Arts Festival begins the 23rd. So if you want to see how that money's being invested.
Yeah, that's an exciting one because it's a return to past practice. So we've got our pre-COVID mojo back, and it will be an all summer long festival. And
Metallica kicked it off for us. Yeah.
There's a special activity tomorrow too, and that is this is one of the things that our nonprofits do so well. They partner with each other for success, and that helps us all. Our farmers market, which is 2 times a week for most of the year, and just achieved gold status statewide. Actually, I don't think it just achieved gold status. I think it's been at that level, but it's one of the finest in the state. But in any event, the Blacksburg Farmers Market is back to meeting Wednesdays and Saturday mornings. And from 2 to 6 tomorrow, there is going to be a pop-up book swap, and that is for anybody who wants to swap a gardening or cooking book. So you bring the books you have and paw over what everybody else brought and go away with something new. And that will be at the market tomorrow from 2 to 6.
And also here in Blacksburg this weekend, I believe it's Saturday from 5 to 8 p.m., the Montgomery Junior Appalachian Musicians, which is run by the Montgomery Museum, is going to be playing their annual benefit concert at 4248 Price's Fork Road here in Blacksburg.
Okay. And if that's the end, we are adjourned. Thank you.